Welcome to the Boosted Volunteer Podcast. We share the stories of dedicated Booster Club volunteers and the tools and strategies they use to run successful booster clubs. We also have sought-out experts on fundraising, volunteer management, and running nonprofits to share best practices. Hosted by Robin Eissler and Evan Eissler, you won't want to miss these great episodes that will help you run your booster club like a champ.
Hi, and welcome to the Boosted Volunteer. Today we're talking to Mark Kincaid. Mark is the fundraising chair and an advisory board member of Troopers Legacy Corps. Troopers Legacy Corps is an all-age drum and bugle corps associated with the historic Troopers Drum and Bugle Corps from Casper, Wyoming. It offers participants a chance to revisit the glory days of marching and an opportunity to join a drum corps family. For those who haven't heard of them, they're part of the Drum Corps International Most Iconic Drum and Bugle Corps, DCI, if you haven't heard of it. Mark also serves on the board of Broadneck Music Boosters, and in his day job, he works in the aerospace and defense industry. Mark, you're not busy at all, are you?
It's been interesting lately, for sure.
Well, welcome. It's so great of you to give your time to all the organizations, and it sounds like you've got a passion for marching.
Well, certainly I contribute a lot of any of the success I've had in life outside of music or marching or anything like that, which is the majority of my life has been outside of music and marching, to be honest. Really to some of the foundational elements that I learned through high school marching band and through 2 years of drum corps, although I was never a traditional alumni of the Troopers Drum and Bugle Corps.
So you aren't even an alumni and you help run the program.
Yeah, they've done some redefinition of what an alumni is. And because I've marched 2 years with the Legacy Corps, they do consider me an alumni. And within that, there's still some stratification of what an alumni is. But really, I thought it was really smart for them to open up the alumni to these folks that are working professionals and potentially have a little bit more money from a fundraising aspect and to broaden the network. It's really tough, I think, for a corps that's based in a small town, Casper, Wyoming, that nobody's ever heard of. Whereas some of the other drum corps are based in places like Concord, which is right outside of San Francisco, or Canton, which is a big city in Ohio. There's big corps there, and the draw is they have a nationwide draw. So they have to expand that network. And I thought it was a really smart move.
So give us an introduction to Troopers Legacy Corps and how it's related to the main Troopers Drum and Bugle Corps.
So drum corps enthusiasts will remember in 2023, the Troopers Legacy Corps took the field on the night of semifinals at Lucas Oil Field.
The big DCI Drum and Bugle Corps. And let's take one step back for
Sure.
our listeners who don't know. DCI Drum and Bugle Corps, it's kind of like the club or the all-American band group that kids do in the summer, right? Is that how you...
Yeah, some ways that they've billed themselves is I think it's the Professional League of the Marching Arts or something like that. And I'm not a part of DCI. And I should probably say up front that I'm just a volunteer with the Troopers. All of the work that I do is with the Troopers Legacy Corps, which is a registered ensemble associated with the Troopers Drum and Bugle Corps. Those are the paid folks that actually run a huge budget that supports really the mission of what we're all about. Troopers Legacy Corps, yes, you're absolutely right. It's a way for some of us to relive some of the glory days and take about a week, a year, and meet up wherever it is we meet up. This year, we're meeting up back in Indianapolis to do our first competitive season. The composition and the makeup of Troopers Legacy Corps is, our population is about 52 on average. That really ranges pretty high up to folks that are close to 80 years old, all the way down to 15-year-olds. It's a huge range, which creates its own problems, right? But it's really about a love for the activity. Some of the younger people that are still of age, they're trying to get into a DCI corps and they're trying to add this to their resume. Those that are in their 80s, I've helped them haul their instruments and stuff like that. It's just about getting together and doing something that we all love. And one of the beautiful things about it really is that in any ensemble, you're going to have people, not to get political at all, but there are people from every end of the spectrum politically. They're every end of the spectrum from a gender standpoint, every end of the spectrum from socioeconomic background, race. Everything is represented there. And our purpose is to promote harmony, like literally to create harmony. That to me is a beautiful thing.
So you gather this group, and then during some of the DCI competitions, you guys learn and put on a performance.
Yeah, it's an insane undertaking. What we're doing this year is called Sound Sport, which picture a very downsized event, usually about half the time, 6-8 minutes, but it's downsized to the point to where it's on field the size of about a basketball court. This takes place outdoors, whereas the finals are taking place indoors inside the Lucas Oil Stadium, which is where the Indianapolis Colts play. It's a fantastic week. If you ever get a chance and you're involved in the marching arts, even if you don't like the Troopers, it's really worth going there and seeing finals, going to the sound sport events, which some are indoors, some are outdoors, going to the finals, which is indoors, and it's a crazy event. There's a convention center that has everything you ever wanted to know and some of the stuff you probably didn't want to know about the marching arts and pageantry and color guard and all that stuff. It's amazing.
One of our team members had the opportunity to go up to WGI this year, and she did some parts of volunteering for that organization. And it's really cool how the marching arts and the performing arts are really elevating to the Super Bowls of the sports we now have the equivalent of in the marching arts, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the culmination. And it's really a good way for people who are still students and marching in academic-based marching bands to go and just get jazzed up and ready for their marching season.
Now, how did you get connected with the Troopers and with the Troopers Legacy Corps?
Yeah, so a convergence of events, right? I was retiring from the military at the time, or preparing for it in 2023. My sister, who lives in California, saw an ad on Facebook for the Troopers Legacy Corps. They wanted some people to join with them in the 2023 celebration of their 65th anniversary, of the Troopers' 65th anniversary. So they were gathering a bunch of alumni and they opened it up to non-alumni. My sister is one of the people that had never marched with a drum corps before, though she did do a marching band growing up. So this was actually the first. We're both right around 50 years old. And we've played music all of our lives. And this was an opportunity for she and I, for the first time in our lives, to play in the same ensemble. So we jumped on it. When we got there, my sister actually described it really well. She said, it's like going to a family reunion where you don't know anybody, but you like everybody.
That might be the opposite of family reunion, Mark.
Right. It really was just a great welcoming environment. There were people there that had marched 10 years of Troopers, and there were people like my sister and I who had marched 0 years. And we were all treated the same, and we were all welcomed into the family. And that was really, more than anything, what made me want to get involved. Not only was I retiring and going through a bit of a personnel transition or a personal transition, but also I had this great experience of this welcoming organization that wanted me to be a part of them.
How hard was it to come up to speed, to learn the routines and the music? What did that look like?
What's interesting is the composition of our organization, the Legacy Corps, probably 30 or 40, probably 50, 60% of them are involved in marching bands or high school music or some kind of performing arts. I've been doing military stuff for 2 decades, and before that I went to college, so I haven't been doing this stuff for a while. I was amazed how cognitively challenging it was to just march and play, even though the drill that we did was very simple. It was nothing like what I did when I marched drum corps myself. The music was challenging enough, but it was within my capability. But that got me thinking to this kind of activity, getting seniors involved in this kind of activity. And I have some family history on my wife's side with some Parkinson's disease. So I'm thinking a lot about that stuff. And I think, what an awesome way to get people engaged. Just from a cognitive standpoint, get them engaged and at least put up a good fight when it comes to cognitive decline that comes with those types of disorders.
It's interesting, probably meets just right about the amount of physical activity that is great. It's kind of like pickleball, right? Like it's just enough activity, but this, you add the level of cognitive work on top of it. I'd imagine it's got to be great for the brain and the body to get out there and do some marching.
Yeah, I was in decent shape and I just had surgery, so I'm not in decent shape anymore. But I was mentally exhausted more than anything else at the end of each of the rehearsals.
I always say that marching band is one of the hardest sports that we see at BoosterHub. Those kids work so hard and they're out there in the summertime on the pavement. And I've seen a big wave across the whole marching band segment of focusing on health and physical fitness and things like that. You can see they're working that into the program now.
Yeah. If I could change the world in 2 ways, it would be that A, the IRS would look at booster clubs a little bit differently. And
You're not allowed to say that on our show, Mark.
I think there's room to grow there. And that B, like all schools would recognize the physical demands that are put on marching band people. I'm in Maryland now and they don't recognize it. So it's an extracurricular and there's no PE credit for it.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you mentioned that just going and participating it motivated you to become part of the organization and step up and take a leadership role.
Yeah, I think I may have overestimated how much time I have on my hands back then because it is demanding. Any volunteer venture that you step into, I think you have to balance that out. And when I work with the high school, it's great because my daughter's in high school. And every chance I get or everything that I do with the band, she's there and it's just very easy for me to spend time with my kid that way. So I think more people should volunteer. Some of the challenges we have in that arena it's usually the same usual suspects that show up to help with certain things. I don't think we're unique in that regard. When it comes to organizing a massive undertaking, trying to get 100 people on the field, all of different ages, everybody's coming from, I think we're represented by 44 states now to maybe 3 countries. We have a couple Canadians that march with us, which was interesting too, because we have to consider their travel, right? We have to consider the fact that they have to cross a border now that is a little different than it was in 2023. So these are things. I saw these challenges and I said, this is going to be a massive undertaking to corral all of these things. And I think I have some organizational skills that can be helpful. And that's why I jumped in.
So you specifically are the fundraising chair for Troopers Legacy. What's worked for you in your approach of securing sponsorships and donations to the Legacy Corps?
I think first and foremost, you have to have a story to tell. We've had some luck with this, some successes, but we have a really compelling story to tell about our association with one of the oldest drum corps in America. So that alone is good enough to pique people's interest. I think our composition being, we've done a lot of pitches to organizations that are tied to the marching arts and to pageantry and color guard. I think that's helpful too, just knowing what your target audience is and what you have to offer in terms of a sponsorship that's a little bit different than somebody else that might be doing the approach. So for us, we looked at the fact that half of our membership are band directors in marching bands. That we thought was appealing, and that proved to be true. Some of the challenges we have with regards to the story that we have to tell is that we're still very young. The troopers themselves are old, but the Legacy Corps started out as a concept in 2018, didn't really show a public face until 2023, and everybody was like really happy about it. We got charged up about it. And in 2024, we did a local event in Casper, which was fantastic. It was a great event, but the nationwide draw or audience that we really need to get good sponsorships just isn't quite there yet. And I think we need to repeat that a little bit more to be able to get the sponsors that we want, because a lot of these things, these drum corps, they do come and go. There was one of the founding drum corps just folded completely last year, I think, and they will never be seen again. So I think there's some weariness there when it comes to an organization with no paid staff and that kind of stuff, just a bunch of like very dedicated volunteers. That's a tough sell, I think. So I think that's the good and the bad. We have a really good story to tell. I think we have yet to establish ourselves really as an ensemble with DCI. I think though, this year with us being competitive for the first year, I think that's going to go a long way towards that goal.
So you guys are going to actually be participating in the competition this year.
Yeah, sound sport is a little bit different. It's a good cookie cutter for us because we do have to hodgepodge a show together, and it will be impressive, mostly because it'll be loud. Yeah, it'll be very loud. We have to cobble together a staff, all volunteer. We have to cobble together a membership, which they're the ones who pay. And we have to get all the logistics put together. Luckily, we have some retirees that are putting all that together. And then we go do the sound sport thing. Putting a competitive drum corps together would be just an impossibility for us. But sound sport, we can put together 5 to 8 minutes of music, I think it is. And the drill is pared down, obviously, because of the size of the field that we're going to be using. So I think it's a perfect venue for us, and it allows us to be competitive. The rules are a lot lighter on sound sport as well. Like you can have saxophones and stuff like that, whereas in drum corps, it's all bugles and drums.
So you're starting new, you're building your fundraising foundation, but this is sort of a seasonal activity. So it peaks in the summer and then goes back. Have you found anything yet that allows you to stay in touch with your sponsors and such year round, even when it's not the height of drum corps season?
Well, in terms of membership, we do a lot of Zoom stuff. There's no way that we could all regionally get together. That is just not possible. So meetings like this, we do a lot of that. When it comes to the annual cycle, this year we started kind of figuring it out. We didn't even get recognized as a real ensemble of the Troopers Drum Bugle Corps until last November, or 2 Novembers ago. So last November, we became a year old. So as we started looking at our calendar and we said, all right, what are the things that we can do to repeat? These things should be seasonal. And we have a lot of people that are talented. So selling purpose-built or ready-made Mother's Day gifts, we did a round of that. We did a round of Father's Day gifts just recently. That turned out really well. So what that looked like was, and this is not a sponsorship, but more of an affiliate partnership that we did with Cross Sabers Coffee. It was just something that one of our members found and said, "Hey, is this you? Is this you guys doing this?" The branding was almost exactly the same. There was a Stetson, there was the cross sabers that are indicative of a cavalry element. So we reached out to the guy. I actually reached out to the guy at a Zoom call just like this and said, "Hey, we think there's an opportunity here for co-branding, but we want to make sure our values are aligned and stuff like that. So I'd like to just get to know you." And it turns out he marched in high school marching band. The CEO ended up he was a cavalry scout, enlisted guy in the Army. So he and I had a lot to talk about with that. We deployed to some of the same places. And we really just kind of formed a quick connection. It made sense. He's in Canton, where the Bluecoats DCI Drum Corps is. So he knows all about Drum Corps. He knew exactly who we were. And we just thought, yeah, this makes sense. Let's go forward with this. So our Father's Day and Mother's Day gifts were personalized mugs that our co-director etched. He's got a t-shirt printing and etching business, and he's a pretty successful guy in that realm. So it was easy for him to kind of whip these things up, package them together with this coffee, and have a really nice Mother's Day gift. So that is the off season, right? Or leading up to the on season. Once it's on, it's all merchandise. You just sell merchandise. That's what you do. In the fall, that's kind of the Drum Corps off season. I think it's a good idea for us to do a lot of planning, a lot of sponsor outreach, that kind of thing. That way, when the spring hits and we're actually like loading trucks, we can actually get that done. So I think we'll get better at that annual cycle as we go a couple more reps through that.
So overall, just generally, you guys are kind of a booster club within a booster club.
Yeah, we do everything under the umbrella of the Troopers Drum Bugle Corps. They're 501c3. All of our insurance is through them and stuff like that. So and we don't have that quite ironed out just yet. There's wrinkles here and there. The troopers are very supportive of us. They love the fact that we are honoring their mission, and they get, a vote on how we make decisions and stuff like that. But that's what we get in return. We get access to branding. We get access to the insurance. And then the tie into DCI. There's a lot of requirements for marching bands in high schools and colleges for like waivers. And there's training that they do now to avoid sexual harassment, which is all very important. Troopers Umbrella provides us the avenue of approach for all of that too, to make sure that some of it's cover yourself, right? But I found the training also to be empowering, and because we do have 15-year-olds and we want them to be able to know how to speak out if something like, God forbid, something along those lines were to happen. So all of that helps us to run our little corner of the 501c3 in a very responsible way.
You have both some alumni and non-alumni members, and you're having to recruit volunteers to run everything. What's your volunteer management solution? How do you bring all that together?
BoosterHub helps us out quite a bit with a lot of this stuff. I think with managing a nationwide population like this, it's been super helpful to have a single platform that does just about everything for us. And it got us off of what we were using before, which is just Google Sheets, which I'm sure everybody does that's not on a common platform. So we use like membership tags, tag people, by year and by what their membership status was. If this person was a member and they played baritone, we could easily combine those tags. If this person was a member, but they're just volunteering this year, my sister's husband's going to be taking pictures. So he volunteered to do photography for the group. So he's in the know. He still gets all the information that he needs for travel and setting aside times and the membership meetings and the volunteer meetings. That to me has been a pretty helpful advantage to us over years previous when we didn't have a good common platform to communicate with people.
Yeah, it's amazing how just some of the little communication nuances can really impact getting people to volunteer. Knowing where to go and how to get the information is always a big deal, and having a way to do that's great. How do you balance your startup kind of program? So how do you balance like immediate near-term fundraising with kind of a longer-term vision? Hey, we're trying to build this for longevity.
I don't know. Honestly.
Good question. Sorry, Mark. Hold on. That one's not fair.
I think it's a fantastic question, honestly. And I think you can go ahead and leave that in on this because I think hopefully that would generate some good discussion on it. I think for us, I pitched a lot of ideas to our directors and I said, I think this will help us for a more long-term. Setting up an endowment. That's an idea that's always kicked around. And I said, I think this would be good because we plan to be around for a long time and maybe we can build it up to where at least we have a scholarship or it's paying for 3 tanks of gas every year, something like that. And I think that's a long-term play. And what I got from my director, or the Legacy Corps director, I love him. He's a smart guy, but he's very bare bones. And he said, Mark, we don't have drums yet. And we need drums. We need to spend $12,000 on drums, right? So let's get to raising some money now. So I think it's about that, right? You have to meet your upfront needs first. You have to be able to put gas in the tank. You have to be able to put food in the bellies. You have to put drums on their shoulders. You have to do those things. And you have to sell that to your membership. We have an older booster club. We're not the volleyball club at a high school, right? We're a bunch of older working professionals. So you can petition people like that. And you can say, hey, look, we're going to campaign this year to get drums, or we're going to buy a trailer and we're going to use that trailer as a source of revenue. But in order to do that, this is what we need to do. We need to raise money. After that, you can petition in a different campaign. Hey, all of our needs are met right now. You still have to pay for your food. So that's coming in the membership. All of our needs are met right now in terms of equipment. Let's set up an endowment so that we can give the Troopers Drum Bugle Corps a scholarship every year. And if we can build that up to where it's pumping out $5,000 a year, that would be wonderful. I think we're at the point now where we can really start thinking about that, because we do have drums and we do have a trailer that could be a source of revenue. And I think we're moving that direction. Give me about 2 years. I might have a better answer for you, though.
I like how you frame that as this is how we sell it to our members. I always tell people that booster clubs are they're really companies trying to sell things. You're trying to get people to buy volunteering. You're trying to get them to buy giving you donations, and you're trying to get them to buy support of your program. And so I like how you use the word sell there. What are your aspirations for Troopers Legacy Corps? What do you want it to look like in 5 years?
I think financially solvent looks pretty good on us. To your point, Robin, I think the most important thing that I learned, because this is not my background, I'm not a teacher. My wife runs nonprofit organizations. I have no idea how to do this, right? So I listened to your podcast quite a bit. And one of the things that you said that really keyed into my mind was, this is a business. Yeah, it's a nonprofit business, but it's a business and you have to run it like one. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. And I think in 5 years, I think we can hopefully call ourselves, we're being financially sound. We have a predictable budget. We execute on that budget and we don't exceed it. We have reliable sources of revenue and we provide a quality experience to our membership. If we can do those things, I think we'll be successful.
I love that. And I do love looking at it like a business. When I first walked into a booster club, it had no tools, it had no structure. And I'm like, you want me to do all this with a Gmail account?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
like 3,000 transactions a year, and it wasn't a lot, but it was like $60,000 a year. I was like, I need some tools. Yeah. Well, what's been your proudest achievement in your role at Troopers so far? I asked you about the future. So what are you most proud of today?
Well, the corps that we put on the field last year was pretty amazing. And it was great because it was a lot of returnees. This was 2024. A lot of returnees that went out and had that amazing experience in 2023. I think the thing that I, and probably the corps itself, is most proud of is the fact that after 2023, what was supposed to happen was the Legacy Corps idea was supposed to go away. And instead what happened was there was so much enthusiasm built on that one performance that we formed the Legacy Corps as a legitimate ensemble under the umbrella of the Troopers Drum Bugle Corps. And we proved that concept, that we proved that we could do it. It wasn't easy and it wasn't flawless, but we proved that we could put a drum corps together, not at Indy where you would have the draw, not in Indianapolis, where you would have the draw and of the experience of marching at Lucas Oil Stadium. Instead, it was a high school stadium that had the acoustics of an oil can, and none of that mattered. We played our hearts out. In some ways, we sounded good. Some ways, it probably could have improved on that sound a little bit. But the thing that I capped on your last question on was provide a quality experience for our membership. That's what we did. We nailed that in 2024 in Casper. And it was a cool program. We all got to see what we call the A Corps, the young kids that legitimately do the activity 24/7 through the whole summer. We got to see their premiere and we got to open up for that premiere. So a lot of us, especially those of us who marched a lot of years with the troopers as kids themselves, we're watching that with tears in their eyes. Myself, I get a little choked up when I think about it too, because I think here we are providing not only a quality experience for our members, but we actually took the field with them and played the corps song afterwards. That was a really moving experience. And they were, these kids were like, oh, we're so glad you're here. And we were like, we're so glad we have the opportunity to be here. And to me, that's what it's all about. I think that's my proudest achievement. And I know that has nothing to do with fundraising. I think my proud days as a fundraiser are in my future. I think we've got big things coming our way in that regard. But that was the crowning achievement that made me want to really be a part of this thing, was taking the field with the young kids and realizing there is a full story to be told here between the 16-year-old out there wide-eyed standing next to those of us who are a little bit older, a little bit chunkier, and a little bit just out of tune. And all of us just being thrilled to be there playing with one another.
If you were having to give advice to someone who's just starting a booster organization or a performing arts group, what's your main piece of advice?
Wow, that's another really good question. I think, so I was talking to my wife about this a little bit because she's assembling or discussing some board turnover in her nonprofit. And if you can recruit a lawyer and a CPA, that is a wonderful thing, and get them to do some volunteer or pro bono work for you. We don't have that. The organization Troopers, they have either on retainer or on staff. But if you're doing this for high school, I'm sure somebody in your high school has a parent that is a CPA and another one that's a lawyer. So if you can recruit them into your board and just ask them to just show up to meetings, that's super helpful to keep you on the straight and narrow. I think for high schools, local business owners are pretty helpful too, because they already have networks established, and get those people involved. We had, again, that's not me. We had some fantastic ones with Broadneck. I'm in Annapolis, Maryland. So they owned a yacht sales company. They knew everybody in the whole area. So that is super helpful too. And then some dedicated parents that are always going to be there. I think you did an interview or some interaction with Lisa Davison for Broadneck. I think I saw you posted that on LinkedIn. And she is one of those people. These are like the booster angels, right? That no matter what, they will always be there. I don't know what the personal situation is, but I'm very thankful for them showing up all the time. So those are the kind of people that we look out for, both in Troopers Legacy Corps, people with a lot of network ties within the organization. We have a couple people that are just on the board to advise us in that way, whereas the rest of us just kind of do the actual wrench turning on the organization.
I think you really hit the nail on the head. One, business owners, they're used to promoting their businesses, so they're good at the promotion piece. And then you get those expertise in those legal and accounting fields. And then you have the people who probably either might be a mom who's not working, or a dad, or somebody who's been very dedicated to a job. They come in and do that dedicated level. I know I'm personally a catalyst, so I come in and make things happen, but I'm terrible at doing the same thing every day.
Right.
You got to have both in the organization for it to be successful.
Yeah.
Tell us where we can see Troopers Legacy Corps this summer.
This summer, we'll be performing somewhere, I think Saturday morning. We perform during DCI Finals, which I think is August 9th. Indianapolis, right? So just outside of Lucas Oil Stadium, there's a parking lot that they kind of take over. They put up stands and all that. And that's where Sound Sport happens. So you can stream that. Anybody who watches Drum Corps, they know the platform that I'm talking about. And they do cover Sound Sport. So you can watch that from your living room or on any device. That's a good way to see us. But if you're in Indianapolis, we're performing Wednesday at the State Fair. That's military night. So there's going to be a lot of good stuff going on in Indianapolis. We have some plans we haven't cemented in stone just yet. There's a big marching festival that happens every Thanksgiving weekend-ish for 2026. We're thinking about going there. That's in Plymouth, Massachusetts. And I think we have templated for Indianapolis again the next year, and then back to Casper the year after that, because that'll put us right around the 70th year. And we will want to do a big show again on the 70th.
Awesome. We will drop a link to your organization in the podcast notes so people can find you and hopefully donate and support your organization. And we look forward to watching you grow. We look forward to seeing how Troopers Legacy Corps grows. And I love the concept of multi-generational and bringing people back in. That's another thing I always tell people about volunteering. I'm like, go ask the alumni. My kids are seniors in college. If someone called me to the school tonight to go staff a concession stand, I'd run over there. I don't have much going on. It's not like the old days where I was going from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night. So I think reaching out to all the generations is a really brilliant idea, and not to mention what it does for those people.
Oh, yeah. This year, we have a concept too where we're reaching more out to they call them age outs. If you turn 22, you can't march Drum Corps anymore. So you can turn 22 while you're on tour, but that year is your age out year. So we're going to be there after their last show, give them a coin that our director has put together, and welcome them into. So instead of aging out, they're aging into the Legacy Corps. So they can say goodbye to their friends and that part of their life and start the new part of their life.
Love it. That's fantastic. Another great idea, Mark. I love following you guys. And we look forward to supporting you at BoosterHub and helping you keep those volunteers inspired and ready to go.
Yeah, we can't thank you enough for the platform you put together. It's pretty amazing stuff. So yeah, thank you.
We appreciate that, you guys. And over Broadneck, too. You guys are a joy to work with. I love Lisa. She's detailed and focused and definitely makes sure that we're on top of our game here at BoosterHub.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for carving out time for this conversation.
We're glad to have you. We're glad to tell the story and share the story with our listeners.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
The Boosted Volunteer is brought to you by BoosterHub. To find out more about BoosterHub and how our app can help you improve communications, increase engagement, raise more money, and manage your booster club responsibly, visit www.boosterhub.com. And then make sure to search for Booster Club Podcast in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at BoosterHub, thanks for listening.